President Biden said he was surprised to learn classified documents from his tenure as vice president were found at his private office. Biden addressed the matter at the North American Leaders Summit in Mexico on Tuesday. The president's special counsel said that the White House was cooperating with the Department of Justice on the review of those documents. Now let's bring in a political strategist to discuss this story a little bit further. This is Rina Shah. She is a Republican and geopolitical strategist. Good morning, Rina. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Mitch. Thanks for having me.
So how concerning are these classified documents that were found?
Well, I'm certainly concerned, as are many Americans who are really scratching their heads, wondering, is there a parallel we can draw here with what went on at Mar-a-Lago when the FBI raided former President Trump's property to get hundreds of documents that had top secret markings, actually? Now, listen, there are things that we can say here that tell us that this is about former presidents, former vice presidents having access to classified documents. And does that really signal any impropriety? Does that mean we are creating risks for national security here? I think we have to be careful how we look at the situation. Number one, we know that Biden's attorneys informed the National Archives and the Department of Justice right away when they found about 10 documents as they were closing the offices of Biden's think tank here in Washington, D.C., called the Penn Biden Center. I am a bit surprised to hear Biden himself saying he's surprised at the revelation of these documents. But then again, you know, people in his position, former elected officials often do have people working for them that are tasked with doing very important tasks. I myself know that because I'm a former senior congressional aide who was helping former members of Congress close their offices. There's a lot of responsibility put in the hands of attorneys and other senior aides. And so here we are in a moment where we're wondering what exactly are the implications. What was the knowledge that Trump had, for example, of what was stored at Mar-a-Lago? What was the knowledge that Biden had of what was stored at Penn Biden Center? Also, what was the intent here? Why were those documents kept by Biden? Now, again, in contrast, the ones we know of so far that Biden had at his think tank were not marked top secret. And a very important other distinction is that these were not requested by the National Archives, whereas for Trump, for months, the National Archives had been requesting the documents before the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago.
I think a big concern here about fairness is that this was something that the National Archives and the FBI or, the government knew about before the midterm elections. That might have influenced the midterm elections, but we didn't hear about it. We heard all about all of the documents from Mar-a-Lago. So I understand there is a little bit of an apples to oranges thing, but I think on that fairness, there seems to be some reason there as to why wasn't this mentioned? Why are we just hearing about it in January? What do you say to that?
Well, I do think, these things do take time to come out when certainly a government agency like the Department of Justice is involved. Any of our agencies, we all know how slow the bureaucracy can be. And I tell you, that has been one of my greatest frustrations with Washington, D.C. Things here move at the pace of molasses. It is mind-numbingly shocking as to how things make their way down from the top. And that's frustrating for everyday Americans who really want to see fairness applied across the board. I do think more will come out. I do think there are Democrats also wanting to be honest and for the sake of our republic really do the right thing and tell us what they know at this point. Again, it just seems like it's been referred over to the National Archives and the Department of Justice at this point. So it's really anyone's guess as to how we learn more. It just really relies on the honesty and integrity of our government officials. But I don't think it would be the worst thing for Congress to do its job and check the executive branch in this way. I mean, that's why we have these three branches, right? I think an investigation into this would be warranted. I hope it would be quick. I would hope it would not take severe amounts of time. But here we are in a moment where I think this is extremely disappointing to again learn that when Biden went and became VP, again, he was a private citizen, just like former President Trump. The same stuff should have applied. I don't believe that any of these former should have any of these kind of documents in their possession because, again, by our Constitution, they are private citizens.
I love the idea of a quick and timely investigation. Do you think instead that it will be in prime time with several hearings and perhaps made for TV?
No, sir. I can't tell you. I don't think that will be the case. But I do hope that again our viewers and fellow Americans everywhere would just be watching now what Congress does a bit more. We live in such a hyper-polarized era. It's important that we think for ourselves, we think critically, and we open our eyes to what both sides are doing. There's a real frustration in Washington, and there has been. The fever pitch has been building for so long. But I think what this past midterms told us is that the narrow majority of the Republicans holding Congress can't really do much for us as an electorate writ large. And I know that's a blanket statement I'm making here, but when we have such slim majorities, it's really hard to see things get done. And unfortunately, when things don't get done, we, the American taxpayer, don't get served. So please open your eyes and hold both sides accountable. Right, lawmakers, even if they don't belong to the same party as you, and encourage them to do the right thing.
Well, former President Trump and his allies, his Republican allies, do seem to think this all but absolves him of any wrongdoing with those Mar-a-Lago documents. Do you think that will work with the American people? Because they're going to say, hey, Mar-a-Lago documents, DOJ, what are you looking into? Look at Hillary's emails. Look at the Biden documents. They're going to equate those two things. Do you think that strategy will work?
Well, Mitch, I think you bring up a good point. Does this absolve Trump of everything he went through last year? Absolutely not. But how in the world can we get our lawmakers to look at this objectively? How can we expect them to walk and chew gum? And that's just not something that gets done in this town. And that's why despite having been in Washington, D.C. for 2 decades and having served a number of Republican elected officials as well as candidates who run as independents as well, I can tell you that there's just things are not getting better over here when we can't expect our lawmakers to do both things. That is to pass legislation and do investigations. So I hope, again, that some people will come to a consensus that this can be done and done properly. But right now, I'm worried about the price of things on the shelf. Eggs are still like near $10 here in D.C. So I need inflation tackled first.
Things are getting expensive out there, aren't they? All right. With that bad pun, I will let you go. Rina Shah, Republican and geopolitical strategist, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.